Five times Rangers have met Bayern, FC Bayern, Bayern Munich, Bayern München, Bavaria Munich, whatever you want to call it. Have you read Uli Hess Lichtenberger's Tor? It's a When Saturday Comes book. I've only read about three different editions, about five times each. It's a great English language history it's the English language history of German football. Get yourself onto that. There's a chapter called Naming Rights that explains uh, what Germans call their clubs, and the kind of mauled translations that we sometimes use over here, and over in Germany they call them FC Bayern. FC Bayern, that's it. Whereas we'll call them Bayern Munich, and that's half German, half English. It should be Bavaria Munich or Bayern München. That's the German word for it. But doesn't change the fact that Rangers have met them five times in European competition, five ties in European competition, one of the clubs that we've met most often in Europe, and four of those were home and away ties. One of them was a final in Nuremberg, which is in Bavaria, in Bayern, as Alan McInally, interpreted by Jonathan Watson, would say, and that was the 1967 Cup Winners' Cup final, which we lost by a single goal to nil after extra time, despite playing the game without a striker. We didn't have a striker. We only had poor Roger Hind playing up front. A valiant effort, really brave to only lose to Bayern in a European tie by a single goal. But that was a result that was completely catastrophic for us, because had we not been so bloody knee-jerk, not been so determined to give an offering to the fans, a sacrifice, a blood sacrifice, a ritual sacrifice, heads must roll after the defeat to Berwick in the Scottish Cup in January 1967. If we hadn't decided to just sack McLean and Forrest, two amazing strikers, on the spot, then one of them would have been available to win the Cup Winners' Cup later on that season, win a European trophy, and that would have been us. We could have annexed ourselves onto Celtic's European Cup win in the same month. We could have been, had a part share in it, if you like. We could have co-opted it. It would be the old firm winning both European trophies. That would be the phrase used so many times that journalists would be getting sued by Celtic fans the same way we try to sue journalists who say that Rangers are a new club just now, but it would have been hilarious. No, the old firm, remember the old firm won both European trophies? We know half of anything. We won the big one. They just won a Mickey Mouse Cup. All right, okay, so you only trying to beat Liverpool in the 1966 semi-final of the Cup Winners' Cup. Or who was it? MTK Budapest beat them in the 1964 semi-final of the Cup Winners' Cup. Celtic were 3-0 up for the first leg and ended up getting put out 4-3. But there would be all that kind of stuff going on to this day, and it would be absolutely hilarious. And with Scotland beating England at Wembley, Scotland becoming the first team to beat England after they'd won the World Cup in April the previous month. that season, with John Gregg captain, Bobby Lennox getting one of the goals, it would just up the old Jim Baxter wasn't at Rangers at the time, but he was running the show in the middle of the park at Wembley that day, the very grass in which England had won that World Cup against Germany, 10 months earlier or something like that. It would just, what a great month, what a great couple of months for Scottish, what a great season for Scottish football. Kilmarnock getting to the semi-finals of the Fairs Cup as well, and the old firm winning both European trophies. It'd been like, that's the kind of thing that could happen again the other way around. Maybe it would have, maybe we'd have got the confidence from it, but it was like, we did a bad season because of the Berwick thing. We weren't able to deal with Jock Stein's Celtic. This was something we hadn't anticipated, and in some sort of kind of effort to show that we're as pure raging as yous, Rangers supporters, they get rid of Forrest and McLean, and everybody would be quite happy with that at the time, I would imagine. Yes, sackings, that's what we want. We didn't win that Cup Winners' Cup, and it's just been a bit of a long slog ever since. You could even say that desire to try and equal that achievement under David Murray is what led to us losing the amount of money that led to us then having to use the EBTs to try and kind of just keep achieving in Europe generally, keep punching above our weight while also dominating domestically, as our support still to this day demands, and always should, I would imagine. But and then EBT, suddenly the HMRC decided they want to make an example of somebody who was really well known as a big public hit, but at the same time it wasn't actually costing the government that much because it's nothing compared to like Google or Starbucks. And it's just unfortunate events which are precipitated by overreacting to one horrific kind of outlier of a result. As we 67 what was it? St Bernard's had put us at the Scottish Cup in 1894, say, I think it was maybe 1893, 1894. I was talking about this last week. I had to look it up. They were in the Scottish Alliance. They didn't join the league to the following season. The first division, they went into the same flight as us, and they won the Scottish Cup the season after that. But strictly speaking, when we lost to Berwick in 1967, that was the first time in the 20th century that we'd lost to a lower league side in the Scottish Cup, and it was the first time in 67, something like 73 years, 72, 73, 74 years that we'd lost to a lower league side in the Scottish Cup. Let's sack two of the best strikers that Scotland's ever seen, two of the best strikers ever been at Rangers. In that way, we won't win the Cup Winners' Cup, which went to X. We came so close, it was almost as if to highlight the fact, this is what you did wrong. All you need here is a striker. Gerd Müller was playing in that game. Gerd Müller, the greatest goal scorer of all time, as far as I'm concerned. He couldn't get a goal. That guy, he couldn't score against us. You know, it was Franz Bula Roth. It was only the fact that they were playing at Gerd Müller was a Nuremberg supporter when he was growing up. So he thought it was Max Morlock. Ich bin Max Morlock, the boss, every time he went out and played. Max Morlock, who wore number 13 when he scored in the World Cup final for West Germany in '54. That's when they're von Bern. You know, they were 2-0 down to Hungary, the unbeaten Hungary team, the Magical Magyars, and that the Golden Squad. And then they come back and they equalised within 8 minutes, and they eventually won. It was the miracle of Bern. Well, Max Morlock was in Europe, and he wore 13. And then Gerd Müller, he's wearing 13 when he scores a winner in the World Cup final 20 years later, just like his hero didn't score the winner, but that's a wee thing. So these guys are right at home, is what I'm trying to say, and they still couldn't score against us in this. But we had get rid of our two strikers. So 4 times it was home and away legs that we played Bayern, twice at the old Grunwalder Strasse, the first ground that they shared with TSV, they shared all their grounds with TSV 1860, but it's just round. I've been outside. It's just round for Sabina Strasse, where they used to be able to get tickets, where the training facility was. I don't know if it still is. It's a while since I've been to see Bayern, but that was the first 2 times we played them home and away. 70-71 Fairs Cup, they beat us 1-0 there, and then we drew 1 each at Ibrox, so that was us out the Fairs Cup. Following season, we draw 1 each there at Grunwalder Strasse in the first leg of the semi-final of the Cup Winners' Cup, the greatest ever Germany team. Greatest ever West Germany team, who were basically the core of the West Germany team who would win the Euros a few weeks later, the World Cup 2 years later, and then get to within a penalty shootout of retaining the Euros another 2 years later. Basically the Bayern players like Gerd Müller, Georg Schwarzenbeck, Franz Beckenbauer, Sepp Maier, Uli Hoeneß eventually, and Paul Breitner, they were the core, they were the fulcrum of that West Germany side's success, the same way that the Spain team, who equalled and just managed to beat that run of success from a European international side, from Euro 2008 to Euro 2012, incorporating the 2010 World Cup. That way they were kind of made up. They had a core of Barcelona players, Puyol and Iniesta and Xavi and all that kind of stuff. That's how good that team was that we then put out the Cup Winners' Cups and beat them 2-0 at Ibrox. Willie Johnson sitting on the ball. That's the greatest Bayern team, the greatest German team ever. We just toyed with them at Ibrox the following season. Then some decades later, we played them in, a decade and a bit later, we played them in the European Cup, and it was the Olympic Stadium. They moved into the Olympic Stadium at that point in time, Bayern, and because Gerd Müller, actually, it was 72 Olympics, they opened that beautiful stadium in Munich. I've been there to see Bayern playing Cologne. Gerd Müller played in the opening game, the official opening game, which was West Germany against the Soviet Union, and West Germany won 4-1. And Gerd Müller, just making himself at home in his new club stadium, he scored all 4 goals in that game. And a few weeks later, he scored 2 goals as West Germany beat the Soviet Union again, 3-0 in the final of the Euros. In Brussels, Belgium, which is where our current manager is from. Belgium, not Brussels. And we played them at Olympic Stadium, the European Cup, drew 0-0, played them at the Olympic Stadium, and they beat us 1-0. They beat us 1-0. Remember, we hit the bar, we hit the post, and Michael Mols got it. So basically, we've lost 3 times in Bavaria to Bayern in European competition by a single goal, and the other 2 times we've drawn with them. That's a great record. That's no bad against a club with the esteemed and extensive and glamorous European history that Rangers have got, and that also that Bayern have got, which started for Bayern with that final, that win against us in the '67 Cup Winners' Cup final. And it's good that we can boast about a European record again. I'm not having a go at Celtic. I'm not having a pop at Celtic. I'm having a pop at the Rangers fans who've suddenly realised, because of the shite they've had to hear from Celtic supporters and Celtic columnists and about Celtic going out of the European Cup, sorry, the Champions League as it is now, to Bayern München very narrowly. Drawing in Munich, losing at home, but drawing in Munich. That's not only by a single goal. It is a great achievement. It is a great achievement for a Scottish club in the current state of European football to just get through that group stage in any way they can, and also to go out so narrowly to Bayern, who are a mighty club, a mighty club with lots and lots of money and regulars in the final of the Champions League. So it is, but Rangers supporters are hearing this and they're like, what? You get Gub 7-1 off Borussia Dortmund in the group stage this season at the Westfalen, where we, 3 years ago, we won there 4-2. We won there 4-2. We picked them out of Europe. You know, we didn't have Haaland. Haaland wasn't playing for them. He wasn't playing for them this season either. We drew to each of them at Ibrox. Should really have won that game as well. A goal disallowed for a winning goal disallowed for a reason I still don't understand that night. But yeah, we absolutely destroyed Borussia Dortmund, a club who we've played 5 times in Europe, but all two-legged affairs. The other team have played most in Europe. Just one more, Der Klassiker, just comes to Rangers in our European history, and Borussia Dortmund have only bested us once in all those times, and that was on penalties. So yeah, we've got quite a good record. And it's nice to see Rangers fans appreciating that today on Twitter. Let's keep calling it Twitter. It's not X because Elon Musk is scum. He's human effluent. On Twitter today, Rangers fans just chipping away. It's had enough of the brave losers, glorious defeat, and it is in comparative terms just now the comparative state of Scottish football to not the coffers of German football, particularly Bayern. It is a brave defeat, a very narrow defeat, something to be quite chuffed with. But Rangers fans, no, this is we've been to a European final. Been to the 4th tier of Scottish football, come back and go to another European final since the last time you won a post-group stage knockout match. Unfortunately for us, Philippe Clement is Celtic in Europe, and that he has never won a post-group stage knockout match as a manager in Europe. We're probably going to go out, but at least we're going to go out in the last 16. We're probably going to go out in the Europa League in the last 16. But it's great to see Rangers supporters finally appreciating what we're doing in Europe under Clement as much as anybody else. This miraculous run of European stuff we've had going on since we come back into top flight, even when we get our record, an almost record doing in the Champions League group stage in 2022, 2023, just to get back into it, just to finally get back into the Champions League group after having been a 4th division club. It's one of the most romantic stories in the history of European football, but we don't do romance, and nobody feels romantically about Rangers, least of all Rangers supporters. So sometimes you've got to set these things down in black and white, and it's nice that a lot of the stuff coming as a result, a lot of the patter coming out as a result of Celtic's defeat last night has just made Rangers fans appreciate their own club again, appreciate that European football is a thing. I don't have to do that thing again. I'm trying to sell it to you. I'm trying to be subtle things like, is it for some reason in my algorithm in YouTube decided I wanted to hear something about European group stage football for the 1990s? I can't understand why, but I was reminded that, of course, Arsenal played Fiorentina at great Batistuta goal, and Dynamo Kiev in the group stages of the Champions League at the old Wembley. When Highbury was on its way out, getting a bit done up, and then just getting discarded altogether, and they went to the old Wembley to host their, I think they played Panathinaikos and AIK Stockholm there as well, amongst others probably. But I just reminded that we played Dynamo Kiev this season at Hampden. Fiorentina, having beaten us in the home and away, the only Winners' Cup final to be played over 2 legs, then went to Hampden the following season, back to Glasgow for the second straight European Winners' Cup final. They won the second and third Conference League final as well, Fiorentina. They also played in the second European Cup final. It's quite an amazing thing with Fiorentina. They've played the second final of the European Cup, the Winners' Cup, and the Conference League in various different ways. But Fiorentina went back to Hampden the following season to play the final. It was supposed to be one-off against Atletico Madrid. And in 1962 at Hampden, there was only 27,000 there, whereas 2 years before, when it was Real Madrid playing Eintracht Frankfurt in the European Cup final, it was 127. There's an extra 100,000 people there to see the other side of Madrid, a bias that continues to this day in the Champions League final, or the European Cup final as it was then. But I thought, well, that means that Dynamo Kiev, Fiorentina, and Real Madrid, from what I can remember, have all played at Ibrox, Hampden, and Wembley in European club competition. The problem there is Real Madrid, I think it's the new Wembley only. I don't think they played at the old Wembley in European competition, but they lost to Spurs when Spurs, White Hart Lane was on its way out. The new stadium kind of overlaps with the old White Hart Lane footprint, but the new Tottenham Stadium was getting built. White Hart Lane wasn't big enough anymore, and they played Champions League football at the new Wembley, which is a different stadium for the old Wembley. So you could throw Real Madrid in there as well. Real Madrid losing to Spurs in that group stage, but then of course going back there and winning the final last season. But old Wembley anyway. Fiorentina and Dinamo Kiev have played, and they've played at Parkhead as well. The two of them have played at Parkhead. So you could throw that in Parkhead since it's a time for Scottish football, Glasgow football, to be united in its European glory. We have played Dinamo Kiev at Hampden, and we played them at Ibrox in European competition, and they played Arsenal at Wembley. Fiorentina did likewise. Celtic, let's be honest, Celtic played Fiorentina and Dinamo Kiev at Parkhead as well. So that's in European competition, so that's quite a thing. Dinamo Kiev were the team that beat them, the team that put them out in 67-68 European Cup. They knocked them out when they were holders, Celtic. They've played them against since then. I think Mark McGee scored against them in Kiev, but Dinamo Kiev beat them. That'd be like 88, 89 probably. And Fiorentina, Fiorentina won the league, I think. They won Serie A, was it 70? Well, that was Cagliari, was it 71 perhaps? Celtic put them out the European Cup the following season anyway. 69 I think it was. So it's about 69-70 European Cup. Fascinating stuff like that. I don't have to do stuff like that anymore to try and get you into the mood for European competition. You're in the mood. My God, it's 16 minutes already. How you doing, folks? This is your Fatek, Lolly72 on the comment section. Last week we said we should call it the midweek manifestation. I like that. We call it the midweek manifestation pod. But this is my third, probably final attempt at doing a wee quick, I did say quick, kind of midweek catch-up, because we've got the 3 straight midweeks without any football for a change as Rangers supporters. And the first week, I just took the week off, and it got to the Friday to do the preview pod for the weekend game, and there was so much to talk about, because Rangers don't need to be playing for Rangers to be making news. It lasted about an hour and 40 odd minutes, and I thought, no letting that happen again. So the following week I did a midweek pod on the Wednesday, and that lasted 2 hours in itself, because we just got put out of the Scottish Cup by Queen's Park, and the aftershocks, the fallout. It was seismic, it was nuclear, it was atomic, it was hydraulic, it was awful. It was just absolutely awful. There was so much to just rant and rave about, and I'm still managing to do that. So I don't know what we're going to call this week in a midweek catch up. Let's see if we can make it under an hour. I'm doubting that already. Patrick Stewart has the only redundancy being made was Patrick Stewart using the open and honest, talking about there's open and honest feedback from everybody. Ock and Howie, it's a tautology redundancy that way. Open is honest. I never understood that phrase. So that was the only redundancy, not the manager. The manager's not getting sacked. Patrick Stewart saying he's not sacking the manager. The CEO of Rangers is not sacking the manager. Reaction pods, general chatting about stuff. Pods coming to you in association with Gersnet. Check out Gersnet from Sunday night. It's still on the Gersnet YouTube channel. It was John and Colin and Alan did a fantastic conversation about not so much the game at Tynecastle, just the general state of things at Rangers just now. That's well worth checking out. I think I'm going to be on Friday night with Brian for the preview pod of the St Mirren game. So I'm sponsored by Gersnet, and I'm also sponsored by what would you call it? Kind of symbolic, superstition and portents holidays. By me, you get P&O cruises, you get Thomas Cook. I'm superstition and portent holidays. I come from, as I've mentioned before, the port town, the metropolis that is Ardrossan in North Ayrshire. You get 3 train stations. You get Ardrossan Harbour, Ardrossan Town, Ardrossan South Beach. Glasgow's only got Central and Queen Street, so I don't really. It's just the biggest, most bustling city in the west coast of Scotland is Ardrossan. That's where I come from, and I grew up. I could see Arran from a bedroom window. Oh, it was idyllic. Absolutely loved it. On the Clyde Estuary, on the Firth of Clyde, and the big thing it's the ferry. The big thing in Ardrossan is the ferry. You get the ferry to Arran 3 or 4 times a day. Not anymore, because the ferry, once they eventually finished making the new ferry or whatever it was, it's too big to fit in the harbour. They're going to they're talking about they're going to have to rebuild the harbour at Ardrossan, but it's probably never going to happen, and that's that finished. I would imagine, if it's in like how long it took them to sort out the ferry itself. But You've got to go down to Troon now to get it. You've got to go down to Troon to get the ferry to Ardrossan. That's tragic. Because when I was growing up, I got the ferry from Ardrossan so many times, and 99% of the times I was going to Brodick and Arran. I was going to Arran, the Isle of Arran. But right in the late 70s, maybe early 1980s, also got it to the Isle of Man. The family were going on holiday at the Isle of Man, as people did in those days. And the ferry left from Arran, and I went to Ramsey, in the Isle of Man. So I've got the Ardrossan ferry to two locations, Arran, Ramsey. I've been to Frankfurt as well. I've been to Frankfurt, went there in 2006. I went there twice in the space of a month in 2006, once for the World Cup. I was just going to Frankfurt, Hauptbahnhof, trained into Munich, trained into the chessboard city of Mannheim, where was bought the manager 54. He was Sepp Herberger. Was born in Mannheim, and he won the World Cup. And I got the train. And the train was the train that I got down to Mannheim. It was going to Bern. I mean, you couldn't make this. It was going to Switzerland. You know, it changed at Mannheim. That's the train I got from Frankfurt, didn't it? And then I got the train down to Munich. Anyway, from Mannheim. I did that, and then a month later, my wife and I went on holiday to Frankfurt. The taxi driver coming back from Glasgow airport said, nobody goes on holiday to Frankfurt. Just did, mate. Frankfurt, Manhattan, big financial centre, big city. I've had to fight the urge to write to Michael Mann, and just say to him, look, you're going to do a film. You've got to do a film in Europe. Go and do it in Manhattan, because it's got the kind of lighting and the city stuff, the cityscapes. I was just seeing, heat, kind of the German version, the European version, the EEC version, every time I was walking through the streets of Manhattan, Frankfurt am Main. It's a great place. They all drink was Apfelwein or something. They drink this kind of cider, kind of white wine combo thing that's very distinctive for that part of the world. Also, plenty of beer. Just a great historic. You get a train to Heidelberg and stuff like that. A great day out. It's just a fantastic part of the world. Fantastic country, Germany. But I've been there. And I didn't go to the Waddell Stadium because I thought I'm going to come back and see Eintracht. They're a European trophy finalist, even at that time, European finalist. So I will have to come and see them at some point. I'll probably come and see them at home, because it'll be a great trip for me now that I know how to get here for football and stuff. But I just happened to bump into the stadium of the other club in Frankfurt, FSV, I think, FSV Frankfurt. They'd be kind of beautiful. So they have all these sports plats type stadiums in general. The lower league sides always have these kind of like a modern, totally intact Newcathkin Park main stand on one side and three sides of terrace and an athletics track in between. Beautiful stuff. You could see right into it and that. But I didn't go to Eintracht Frankfurt, and then we end up, I can't get my passport renewed because of the COVID backlog, and I was buying a new house at the time when we get to the final against Eintracht Frankfurt. I didn't go to Seville. And that really hurt me and that kind of thing. But holidays was quite significant. I'd been to Frankfurt like years before, and Manchester, I've been to Manchester plenty of times. You can further down south in England, have a couple of nights in Manchester to break it up if you're taking the car. I'd been to football a couple of times, in '96 to see Man U at Old Trafford just for the sake of it. Been to Manchester plenty of times with my sister and stuff as well when she was at uni doing that way. So I knew Manchester really well, and then we get to the UEFA Cup. But I'd been 10 months before I went down to the UEFA Cup final, and I was at that one in the City of Manchester Stadium, as was then. I'd been at the Hotel Zenit. We're playing Zenit St Petersburg in the final, and I spent my whole life obsessed with Rangers getting back to a European final. And 10 months beforehand, I'd been in the Hotel Zenit. Photograph of me outside, it was my wife. One of us taking a photograph outside the Hotel Zenit. Beautiful hotel, and we just. Next time we played Zeta. Rangers played Zeta in the first kind of European game we played that season, and we end up the Z to Z of making your dreams come true with Rangers. Many Zs you're experiencing just now as well. Listen to my partner, and we got to that European final, and it was almost like it was meant to happen. I was against Zenit St Petersburg, and I was at the Hotel Zenit. That hotel was in Bilbao. It was a Hotel Zenit in Bilbao. I'd spent the week in Bilbao, and I spent the week in Bilbao, and that's where the UEFA Cup, the Europa League final is this season. The UEFA Cup trophy will be played for at Bilbao. San Mamés, the new San Mamés. When I was in Bilbao, spent the week in Bilbao, it was during the summer, there was no football on, but I did the tour of the old San Mamés, like a Catedral. And we're going to the underground, and the underground looked brand new, and so we're looking up stuff at the underground in Bilbao. Really nice. It's not a massive city, it's a beautiful city though. And the food, pinchos. Oh my Anyway, beautiful city, and the underground was designed by Norman Foster, Sir Norman Foster. And I'm thinking, you dirty plagiarising bastard, you, Sir Norman, because the old San Mames, really distinctive arch, a big arch above their main stand, holding their main stand in place. It's just, you could see it all over the city. Everybody knew that. So it's a bit like Newcastle, St James's Park. You could see it from anywhere, and that's our team, that's our heartbeat. And it was the same thing with San Mames, right in the town, got this massive big arch on it. And I thought, Sir Norman Foster, who designed the new Wembley, new Wembley, did Dinamo Kiev, Fiorentina, Real Madrid, old Wembley, new Wembley, with its big distinctive arch. There's no way he's in Bilbao doing that and he doesn't notice the arch over their main stand. Has he ever given them credit for that? The architect that did, Sir Norman Foster. That's one I think he got that for Wembley, and that was Bilbao, and that's where this year's Europa League final is being played at San Mames. Athletic Club are still in that competition. I know we have this stuff with Lyon every time we meet Lyon in the group stage. Every time Lyon beat us at Ibrox in that group stage, and we don't lose in Lyon, be it beating them 3-0 or drawing 1 each because it's a dead rubber and we get an own goal equaliser via Scott Wright, or we don't have to play them at all in Lyon because of the new group stage format. It's 3 different ways that we don't lose in Lyon versus them winning at Ibrox in the group stage. We always get to European final. Well, we did the previous 2 times. We get to European final after that happens. So there's that, but there's also just the portents, the karma that Alec wants it so bad it's got to happen. These are the things that are going to make it happen. Self-belief. I'm sponsored by those holidays. My name's Alec Anderson. Things are getting just too cozy for me. I see people as they see me. Gonna break away and gain control. Free your mind, you free your soul. It's absolutely impossible to sing, that wasn't singing, but God knows what I was doing, to my favourite jam track there. That is my favourite jam track. Away from the numbers, it's impossible to sing it, to hear it without drumming, without doing a bit of air drumming. I don't know the first thing about music, as you can tell by my attempts to sing. I might know a wee bit here and there about groups or singles or LPs or concerts, well, some wee bit of factoid of a group's history or something, but I don't know anything about music. I don't have a musical bone in my body. And I made a wee kind of passing comment, a wee passing remark about the Sky Arts series, The Art of Drumming, which I'd started. I think I watched 1 episode and I'd saved up the other ones. I was going to get back to what I never did. I think they're all deleted now. But that's what I was going to watch. I was making a wee reference to the Art of Drumming. So I don't know if Rick Buckler was on that, but if anybody mentioned Rick Buckler to me, unbelievably, kind of horribly on the nose, the first track I thought about was Funeral Pyre. But I didn't just think about Funeral Pyre in terms of if anybody mentioned Rick Buckler. I thought about Funeral Pyre if anybody mentioned drumming. What was the best drumming you've had? That's the first thing I ever thought about. When I was a kid, Funeral Pyre, I just thought it was unbelievable. I still think it's an unbelievable track. But it's him and Bruce Fox. They decided they were going to. It was Paul Weller was the last one involved in that track, and it's absolutely phenomenal. As Rick Buckler driven, and Rick Buckler did, as everybody's saying today, he drove the Jam, who when I was a kid were just like a phenomenon. They were just so relevant. They were so sharp. They were otherworldly. At the same time, they were magical. It was a mist. It was like the Jam. They're straight in at number 1. When straight in at number 1 was still a thing. It was a major thing. It wasn't something that was concocted by record companies and that, so it was a way to announce a group. It was just because so many people were so hardcore dedicated to the Jam, and they brought out these hardcore songs. And you're going to have a 3-piece band that's going to be that hardcore. The drummer has to be seriously hardcore, and Rick Buckler was. So R.I.P. Rick Buckler. Absolutely devastating to hear that he has passed away. That's another bit of my childhood totally gone. It's another bit of the social kind of fabric of my life has gone. But of course, the music lives on, and he certainly knew how to play that music. Listen, folks, the main thing is that the CEO has come out on Wednesday, the Rangers CEO Patrick Stewart, and has stepped up and has come out with the statement to the fans that we were all looking for. It's that kind of. I think when it gets to the point on Friday there at the press conference that Ronnie Esplanade was the journalists are actually starting to have a go at the manager, starting to say, "Why are you here? Why are you still here?" They've got to make it clear. Now the fan media guys from Heart and Hand and the Rangers Review were doing the same thing straight after the defeat to Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup at Ibrox, and I definitely got the impression that Clement wasn't getting it. And I think he understood it's a terrible defeat. He understood the technicalities of it. It's a lower league side, and also that's us out the Scottish Cup far too early. That's a trophy gone, but I don't think he really got. I don't know if anybody had ever told him we had never lost to a lower league side in the Scottish Cup at Ibrox. It's not the kind of thing you'd want to break to him at if you're working with him. Why you tell me that? But I don't think he really felt. I don't think he really understood just exactly how devastating this was going to be to the Rangers support. I posited that whole theory about the Belgian Cup only really started in the 60s because of the Cup Winners' Cup. It restarted. It a few false starts in its history, but it's nothing like the same meaning in Belgium as the Scottish Cup has to us. It's a uniquely British thing, a cup competition, because this island basically given association football to the rest of the world. We started off with cup competitions. The leagues came afterwards. By the time the rest of Europe got on in tow with it, it was they just went straight to leagues being the most important thing. But I just don't think he got it at all. He got it. So I don't think he got the depth of hurt. How proud we were of that record. A record we didn't even have to think about. A fantastic symbol of our innate power as a football club. It was like a decapitation. Something like that. No, not a decapitation. What would you call it? An amputation. An amputation of the head is a decapitation. So maybe it was. I don't know. But it was a horrible day. A horrible result. Something we can't do anything about except to do something historically good, like win the Europa League. And when Ronnie Esplanade has got to say to Clement at the end of the press conference, basically, that's it. That's the end of the story. That's because there's no counter story. There's no counter narrative. Nobody has come out for the club to defend or condemn Clement or the result itself. It's Clement again having to do all the talking, and he's on it. He's on the project. He's on the long-term project. So he just probably sees that as a result below expectations, as much as, drawn at home with Spurs or beating Nice 4-1 in Nice as a result way above expectations. These are the kind of vagaries, the variations you're going to get along this mean, kind of slow mean of upward, just general upward direction. He's a project man. He knows that a project's involved, as a project is required. Rangers are a project just now, and he's the man to run that project. But we just saw, we're going to the Scottish Cup to a lower league side. It's an absolute humiliation. So I think I can't help thinking, although that Patrick Stewart is saying today, yes, it's this internal review. I said I wasn't going to come out and say anything else until this internal review was kind of coming to an end, or I'd found out something significant. These external consultants conducting an internal review, and it's going to taper. It's going to taper out towards the end of the season. The external consultants, but Rangers, we're going to continual improvement. We're going to continually review the situation so that we're always on the up under Patrick Stewart. And that's fine. That's what we like to hear. But I think he was using that as an excuse to come out and make the statement that's needed to be made. We needed to hear from the club. Before that, I think Stewart. I think he came across quite well, and I think he's probably, like Malcolm Tucker in the thick of it, he's worried that he's going to become the story. He said that himself. He doesn't want. It's going to come across a bit self-publicising if he's suddenly, look, Statement FC. You don't want to be Statement FC. So if he's coming out basically a month after publicly defending the manager or giving the vote of confidence with caveats, it's kind of difficult for him to come out again and do the same thing. So he's probably been mulling it over. Is this actually required? But he's got the external review of the internal workings to a certain point where it gives him an excuse to come out and just make a general general statement. It's that kind of thing we had. It's a repeat of the Queen not talking about Diana. Why isn't the Queen not saying anything about Diana dying? Another version of that same thing we had in the summer, basically, with John Bennett. having to make an interview style statement. You're using the in-house media team, Rangers TV interviewer, as a kind of human lectern. You're basically just pre-approving the questions. I would imagine you're telling the interviewer what he can ask you. Makes it seem like he's like scrutiny when it isn't really. But he's using that same thing. The self-styled kind of staunch. We don't want our betters to be as staunch as us. We want to hear what they've got to say. We demand an announcement from the Palace so vehemently that the Buckingham Palace is forced to make a statement of what for many is the bleeding obvious. But it needed doing. There was a genuine feeling Clement didn't understand the Queen's Park defeat, its meaning, its severity. So Patrick Stewart comes out today, and I thought he was generally quite convincing. I've tried to note down a few things. This is the only negative from Patrick Stewart's interview. Is he had a qualification of successful at the end of it. He ended by saying, "Blah blah blah. We'll get back by long-term success. We want long-term success for the club, and just to be clear, by success I mean winning, not coming second." Nice one, Patrick. You get what we're all about. Coming second is not winning, so that's good to know that he gets that. But generally, it was quite good. It wasn't really an interview, say, more a kind of pre-approved list of questions delivered at him, and an impersonation of an interview scenario with this new. It's a news to me thing. This it seemed to me that the latest way of delivering club statements. But it did see him hit himself with some pretty searching questions and follow-ups. If the Queen's Park defeat is as bad as you're admitting, then why is Clement still in a job? Do we not have the money to sack him? This is the kind of stuff that you've been seeing on the Twitter accounts of every kind of hysterical Harry and miserable Minnie who loves this great club of ours and has been really upset by what's happened recently. So I think he gave himself a bit of a. I know a journalist, a proper external journalist from the mainstream media would have properly prosecuted a lot of those questions. Like, for example, is the 20 pence shares, the 18 million shares at 20 pence each, is that got something to do with raising the money to get rid of Philippe Clement? Is that for players coming in or something like that? It would hit me a few more negatives and make it a bit harder for him, a bit more uncomfortable for Patrick Stewart today. But I thought he did quite well. He can't be making statements every time there's a bad result. This is something he was saying, and I thought it was. Why haven't you come out and said something earlier? He's more upfront, more customer facing in his role as a CEO, but he's not the owner. He's not the owner of the club. We're not talking about Wallace Mercer or Vladimir Romanov or something like that. We're not talking about David Murray here. Statement FC. You don't become a Statement FC by making big announcements. So it dilutes the effect of the announcements. I think he was hinting at that. And he might be making a statement every week because we're the worst team in the history of football, really, aren't we? We're just the worst team ever to cross the white line and take to the park to play a game of association football. So he'd need to be making statements every single week, and it would just dilute the effect of them. I think that was a good point he was making. You can't sugarcoat it, he said about the Queen's Park defeat. He just wanted to start with that. It was disastrous. That was good to hear. It was our first ever defeat in the Scottish Cup to lower league opposition. That wasn't lost on him, so it's been pointed out to him. That's why it's so bad. That's why they're so angry, Patrick. Okay. He did clarify the difference between what Niels Coppen is doing and what we all thought had been given to understand that he was doing. That was good. That was later on in the interview. But one of his early quotes was, "We have been underperforming as a club for several seasons now, and that's not down to the manager." This is like, why are you not sacking Clement then? We've been underperforming as a club for several seasons now, and that's not down to the manager. We've changed the manager, and that has not made a difference. I think that's absolutely spot on. That's what I've been punting my wee point of view on this pod for God knows how long. Well, since Clement's been in anyway. These are legacy problems. These are historical problems. I don't think Philippe Clement is to be blamed for them. I think he's actually making, most of the time, he's making a wee bit of a silk purse out the pig's ear he's been given. We're on our third new manager since winning the title 4 years ago. We'll look at the kind of historical aspect of the Queen's Park defeat to lambast the manager, quite rightly. And it's 150 years of home games in the Scottish Cup. That's the first one we've ever won to a lower league side. But we don't look at the historical aspect that the last manager to retain the league title for Rangers is the last one to have been here for more than 4 years. When Walter Smith was here in his second term, it was just 4.5 years, 4.5 seasons ago. And of course, Walter Smith had a much longer time at Rangers and at Scottish football in general. Previously, as a manager, he's a vastly experienced manager, but he really knew the local scene, so to speak, and the European scene eventually as well, Walter. So I don't think we can be this horrifically, historically bad result against Queen's Park, sack the manager, and just no. If you're going to look at the historical aspect of it, just look at what's staring you right in the face. We need some sort of consistency in the manager's chair, and all the various roles, which are still all the various roles are still in the position, still in the kind of state of being filled. As he was going on to explain, Patrick Stewart, he's looking at the root causes of the problems at Rangers. He's not fixing the ceiling. If it was a new house he was going to be fixing, you don't fix the ceiling of the house before you've fixed the root foundations. I don't know what root foundations are, but we knew what you meant. Philippe and the team, it doesn't. They don't get credit for the really tough draw they got in the Europa League. This is Philippe Clement and his coaching staff, which has been changing a bit of late as well. Another wee change again today. Really tough draw, Europa League, the top 8, and we played 4 of the teams in the top 8, which is something we were all talking about the night we went through, in 8th position in this Europa League group stage. The last of the spots that gets you straight through to the last 16. It was a fantastic achievement. And he doesn't want to take a step that will put our further progress in the Europa League at risk. I think that could be looked at 2 ways. Patrick Stewart said that today. I don't want to risk further progress in the Europa League. I think what I've been saying all season, never ever take for granted or eschew European competence or progress at Rangers. If it goes beyond European competence for Rangers, then it's the greatest kind of glory I think's available to Scottish clubs. It's history changing, it's life changing, finance boosting, and it's just sheer joy to do well, to get to a European final for a Scottish club. It's the best thing ever. It's immense. It's just such a glorious thing to do. The chance of winning a European competition, unbelievable. Just to have that. So you can't risk, if a guy is doing well in Europe, he's only lost. He hasn't lost outside Britain in a European club tie for Rangers, Philippe Clement. So yeah, it'd be daft to sack him, especially he's made it so that's the only competition we're still in. But if the other way of looking at that is if Clement loses in the last 16 of the Europa League, he's gone, he's away, that's it. It'd be daft to get rid of him just now, basically, is what Patrick Stewart's saying, or he's got one last chance. But that's not. He then went on to say, I've got to keep real discipline and focus to ensure I'm making the right decision in the right order for the long-term benefit of the club. The right decisions in the right order for the long-term benefit of the club. This is all music to my ears, because to me it's just so obviously a project we need to do the root and branch stuff. That he's basically saying he's not going to. This is why you're not sacking Clement. This is still the question: why you're not sacking Clement. I'm not repeating the quick mistakes of the past. There's no quick wins. He's here to make unpopular decisions. That's quite a thing when the unpopular decision is to keep the manager, but that's Rangers for you. He's not going to do knee-jerk reacting. We're sticking to the plan. It's good to know there is a plan. No free passes. We're all judged on results. This is the caveats here. There's no, we're all judged on results, himself and Clement. But we are sticking to the plan. It's a long-term thing. We're looking to completely reorganise the club. Now, it might be downsizing. That's another way you can put it. But there's just no question that it hasn't been working. Changing our manager mid-season for the last 3 seasons of trot. Of course, Aston Villa come in and took Steven Gerrard off us, but it hasn't worked. He backed what Clement said about the post-Queen's Park chat, that it's a routine thing. Journalists have been saying to Clement, you were talking to Patrick Stewart after you get put out by Queen's Park. No, basically, was that him telling you you're for the sack? And he was saying, no, Clement, that's just, we do that all the time. We always talk before and after games. And Stewart backed him up on that today, but he did say it was a longer chat than usual, something that Clement wasn't letting slip when he spoke about it to the press. And he was saying, but for him, it's the focus is about the response, Clement's response to the setback. he was asked again. The fella from the Rangers TV was, you've totally got the dough to sack him. Basically, we've totally got the money to sack him. I'll be no sacking Clement because we don't have the money to sack him. This is something that's been doing the rounds on social media, etc. It's going to cost us 1 point something million to sack Clement. That's why we're not doing it. And he's like, we've totally got the money to sack him, and keeping someone on a job to save a termination payment is a false economy. So that was quite a nice wee line there. He's committed to reintroducing the CEO fan forums. He's talking about the times he has been consulting with fans recently. I need to find a rhythm. This is I'm talking about not coming out and speaking straight after the Queen's Park defeat. He doesn't want to be speaking all the time, making public announcements instead of doing his job. Again, that's Statement FC. We're very quick to call ourselves Statement FC. Public comments on a match is Clement's job, and that's good. It's a football. Clement is here to deal with the football. If we lose, he should be talking about it. So I thought it was. I found it all quite believable. 6 weeks into this review of the workings of everything at Auchenhowie, etc., by exterior consultants and the club, all the good and the bad stuff at Auchenhowie, just basically why we're in this situation. What we can do to basically get better players and get better at winning football matches. The club and Stewart himself, though, will never stop reviewing our operations, as it's about continual improvement. But the consultants think they're going to be stopping towards the end of the season. But constant evolution for Rangers, so we're always going to be reviewing our own workings. Same thing. He's like, why didn't you do it yourself? Why do you have to get external consultants in? Something else that people have been complaining about. The fans have been complaining about amongst ourselves. And he said, well, I don't have the time. I don't have time. I'm just too busy, and he should be. As Rangers CEO, he should be too busy to be going about asking endless questions of all the minutiae of running Auchenhowie. But it's also something that he needs to get right. We need to find out if we can do that better. The main finding so far from this review is that we're looking for a sporting director, someone at the top of the tree. He said. We've had roots, so yeah, it's time for them to mention branches. It's a root and branch review. You've had the root foundations, now it says somebody's at the top of the tree. So that's us get the root and branch thing that you need for any kind of review. It is, after all, a review. It must be root and branch. Someone who can cover everything about the football operation while Paddy and the boys go looking for the dough, basically. Holistic, he threw in holistic. It's how elite European clubs are run. That's how they work. They've got a sporting director at the top of the tree for running the actual squad and etc. So the football side of things. So we need to move to that model. He was saying it. That was absolutely suits me fine to see that we're doing that. Coppin, the part about Neil's Coppin, it translated to he stepped up when we were kind of struggling for bodies into the boardroom and executive board in the summer. But he is a recruitment guy. He's going to get a new boss. He's going to get a new line manager. This sporting director is going to come in and be Neil's Coppin's new boss. The technical director title given to Coppin, it was quite good that they actually explained the difference between the two of them. Basically, he's just dealing with recruitment. He's dealing with focusing on recruitment, getting players from the reserves, youth teams into the first team, finding a way for them to get that kind of first team pathways, all that kind of nonsense. He's deciding when we're selling people, who we're going to sell, who we're going to buy, who we're going to buy, who we're going to buy them from, and also who and when we need to sell players. He's going to buying and trading, player trading model. He's going to be in there operating that. Neil's Coppin, but the sporting director's in charge of the entire football operation, including recruitment. Obviously, he'll oversee the recruitment, but men's team, women's team, the academy, the medical side of things, the fitness side of things, the type of Kit Kats they have in the players' cafe, that kind of stuff. He's going to be everything to do with the football operation, whereas Coppin is going to specialise in squad planning, which is basically kind of recruitment. So Neil's Coppin is the guy we can still hammer into him if we start thinking the quality of players that we're getting in aren't good enough and they're costing us too much and we're selling guys at the wrong time or for the wrong price. We want to avoid making the same mistakes, said Patrick Stewart, and I thought that was absolutely spot on. Rangers have never sacked a manager after a huge Scottish Cup shock, not directly after it anyway. So it's, he's not even repeating a mistake there. It's something. We sacked McLean and Forrest, as I said, in '67. That ended up really costing us. It could cost us historically in so many ways. But it was all stuff about actions being implemented, driving improvement, all the usual kind of management jargon shite. But I believe he is reviewing everything, and that as well as long term. Long term kind of goals, long term kind of not sacking folk just for the sake of it. It's exactly what we need. It's exactly the kind of outlook we need. It's what I thought was happening anyway. To be honest with you, this who you going to get in this sporting director? So there's no timeline on that. It's about getting the right person, and we did do that. It looks like, so far it looks like we have done that with Patrick Stewart. He seems okay to me. Doesn't come across particularly smoothly, but who am I to slag somebody else for that? But as per, it's the same thing as per the Copeland Road stand, as per getting a replacement for Bisgrove in, as getting Stewart himself in, getting our new chairman in. It was the same day, 16th of December. They're both Fraser Thornton and Patrick Stewart are both announced, revealed to us. This is after John Gillingham coming in to replace John Bennett. This is the same way we treated the improvement work to the Copeland Road stand. It's stuff that needs done, and it's going to be messy, and it's never going to be done fast enough. It's never going to be done as kind of smoothly as everybody would like, but it's got to be done. I think the stuff that we all kind of fantasised about doing in 2012. Oh, we should just start with kids. We should just become basically, a kind of kindergarten for young promising footballers. So by the time we got back into the top flight, that was never the right attitude to have then, because we had a big identity crisis going on. We needed to do big signings and just being top of a league that Celtic weren't in. That was really important to us as we kind of convinced ourselves we were still the same club. So I think now is the time to do it though. We've had the directors coming in and giving us money and wanting that money back, with the Cowboys in the beginning, gangsters as well. Less gangsters, more just kind of dodgy businessmen, then solid businessmen. It's just the way it happens, I would imagine. Kind of gradual improvement of the people that are running the club, and we're getting more professional people in just now, I think. But I think it's one of those things. If you look at like winning the Scottish Cup, for example, you could compare how you felt about winning the Scottish Cup in 2016 when we hadn't won the league yet again. Since all the problems of 2012. We hadn't even been back in the top flight yet. We're just going back into the top flight. It was like, this will be amazing if we could win the Scottish Cup and go back into the top flight as already having won one of the major trophies. Phenomenal. Didn't happen. It was a disaster that day against Hibs. And in 2022, when we did win it, it was like kind of under the smelly armpit of the penalties defeat in Seville, and we'd already won the league title unbeaten the previous season. So it kind of seemed like small change a bit, but well, it was massively important. I thought it was one of the most vital cup final wins ever, as far as I'm concerned. But you rarely get something that you've dreamt of, something you've wanted so badly, kind of desperately. It's making you angry. It's making you talk about walking away from the club and stuff like that. It rarely happens in the dramatic fashion that you want it to. It's a kind of gradual thing. It'll be, by the time it happens, it'll just seem kind of like it was destined to happen. It won't be a big deal. Other stuff will kind of shift round about it. I think him talking to us, it's made me feel better today. It has made me feel better. It's well done to everybody who demanded the board did come out and talk to us. I didn't, because I felt as if there was enough folk out there who were demanding, not just the board come out and talk to us, but the board all kind of commit ritual harry-carry and we just burn Ibrox to the ground and stuff like that. I was just getting a bit hysterical, but I just commented on it, and I stated why I imagined Clement wasn't getting sacked. I said, like everything huge in life, it's going to need, it's more likely to happen in a kind of normal, undramatic way. I think that's how we're going to win the league again and retain the league. We'll be building up to wee things will happen along the way that will make it seem as if it's kind of inevitable. Clement has been, I feel, doing a bit of a, I think this season's actually done a bit of a Willie Waddell in the wake of the Ibrox disaster, a bit of a Walter Smith in 2009 coming out and telling us that the bank was basically running the club after that home draw with Hibs. Ali McCoist 2012, we don't do walking away. I think he's been doing because he has no credit in the bank. I mean, only Bill Struth and, William Wilton maybe have got more credit in the bank, anything like the credit in the bank that those three figures I've mentioned are. But there's no way Clement has been here long enough to get that kind of respect from the Rangers supporters. He hasn't won anything more than a League Cup with us. He's done quite well in Europe, but he's not even been here that long. They would get that level of respect. But I actually noticed believe it or not, I do get haircuts because it grows out the side really mad, and I like to support my local business. And I went along there, and I was waiting for my turn, and the Daily Record was sitting there, and I was reading an article. It was a few weeks ago. It was Scott McDermott that I'd mentioned a few weeks ago on the pod, and I was reading a wee article by him, and he was saying the same thing. Don't slag me, but I think he could have, what he's been doing this summer, Clement, is up there with what Waddell did, about getting a hold of the club in the wake of the Ibrox disaster, the immediate wake of the Ibrox disaster, and rebuilding Ibrox as a result of that. What Walter did in 2009, what Ali did in 2012. So it's like, I'm not the only nutter out there who thinks Clement gets it. He gets what's required. He doesn't get the import of the Queen's Park result, and that's almost like his foreignness, his outside, literally foreign to the club, is maybe a good thing, in that he won't let that destroy his confidence, that defeat to Queen's Park, and him seeing it in cold, hard terms, like, yeah, there's a bigger picture here. It's maybe a good thing. He's got zero credit in the bank with us, like a bit like Fergus McCann had at Parkhead, but now Celtic fans want statues of Fergus McCann, basically because of what happened to us. But what Clement did over the summer and this season is why we're absorbing a catastrophic, embarrassing Scottish Cup result. But it's also what ultimately I think will lead to his sacking being more of a kind of middle management reshuffle, which will be worthy of maybe a short paragraph in the corporate newsletter. Hello, we are the Holistic Boys. Hello, you'll know us by basically a comparable lack of noise. That's not what it's been like for the last, basically since the Queen's Park defeat. It got to the point where even the victory over Hearts at Tynecastle on Sunday was getting treated as a defeat. It was getting treated as a Hearts win. It was all Rangers fans giving it. Hearts deserved to win that game. We were terrible, and that's the way it should be. The players should suffer. The management should get no credit whatsoever. The defeat to Queen's Park was utterly horrific, and they should only be getting out there to try and start clawing back some of the respect, never mind affection's a long way off for this team after that result. So it's only right that we're giving them a hard time, despite the fact they've gone to Tynecastle. And we weren't good on the day. There was a lot of things wrong with the Rangers' performance, but it used to be a thing that if we went and we won 3-1 at Tynecastle, playing badly, that would be a sign of how good we were. But it's the first game they've played after one of the worst defeats in our history, arguably the worst in the Scottish Cup ever. So they were never going to get any kind of praise there. It feels like we're still talking about Queen's Park at Ibrox and will be for the rest of this season. Even if we win the Europa League, it's probably going to end up being a macrocosm. If we were to go and win the Europa League this season, it'd be a macrocosm of Dessers against Fraserburgh in the previous round of the Scottish Cup, where he scores a hat-trick, we win the game 5-0, he scores 3 goals and sets one up, but all anybody wants to talk to him about is the horrific miss he had at the beginning, the really embarrassing miss he had at the beginning of the game. I'm quite sure Philippe Clement regards us losing to Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup compared to what we've done in Europe as the same way as that Dessers miss at the beginning of that game compared to Dessers' hat-trick and assist in the eventual 5-0 win. There was a lot of kind of morbidly depressed, near hysteria still going on in the reaction to, and the support's kind of attitude right now. Our league situation hasn't changed at all since Queen's Park. Excuse me. It hasn't changed at all, except that there's one less game to play. There's only 12 games to go now. Celtic's crowning will be where that takes place. It'll be a matter for some kind of dread probably on our part as the season goes on. But we went to Tannadice on the back of a really good show at Old Trafford, and we won 3-1 away from home. Dundee United gave us a hard time. They took the lead in that game, but we won 3-1, and everybody was I felt as if everybody was generally buzzing about that performance. We've done the same thing at Tynecastle, and everybody is absolutely raging. This whole thing about, I don't see any improvement for Clement's team. I don't know what they're trying to do, blah, blah, blah. We don't see any improvements. They drew 0-0 at Tynecastle on the first day of the season. We were all raging with that result against Stephen Naismith's Hearts, who were about to go on an unwinning run of record proportions that would leave him, I don't know if it was record proportions, but it was really bad. That would see Stephen Naismith getting sacked by the kind of mid to the end of September. And we've gone from that to him now going to Tynecastle and winning 3-1 against a Hearts side. That was their first defeat in any competition this calendar year. I know we're only into February, mid-February, but if you don't see any improvement in that, then I can't really help you. I know we don't want to talk about it, we don't want to be praising the team just now, but we need to make sure we get it right. Our judgment, because if we're sacking somebody too early, it's going to put the club back. I just don't think we can afford to be doing it. Not for financial reasons. We need some sort of stability. We're still building up the board. We're still, it's basically a job announcement, a recruitment announcement made today by the CEO. We're going to have to get a sporting director in. We still don't have one. We have to have a CEO for 6 months. Whatever. It's changing chairman, getting John Gilligan in, temporary chairman. It's just an absolute nightmare behind the scenes. That's why I feel as if Clement, to cap it all off, we're not even playing at our own stadium at the beginning of the season. I feel as if the guy's done really incredibly well to have us 8th in the Europa League. The Souness defeat versus Hamilton, I think that was worse. Hamilton were in the same league as us. They finished rock bottom, I think, of the Premier League that season. Hamilton doesn't seem as bad, that Scottish Cup defeat in 1987, but Souness was getting the spending power that few Rangers managers had ever had. With Graham Roberts, with Terry Butcher, with Souness himself, who was a multiple European Cup winner, European Cup winning captain with Liverpool. He played in Serie A. I know it was at the end of his playing career, but I don't know if Souness played that day against Hamilton, did he? He's in the team anyway. We've got Ali McCoist, a record-breaking goal scorer for Rangers. He's up front. It's David Cooper still playing for us at that point in time. I feel as if we just loosened the purse strings as well with the reason Souness was there, and these players. There was the Heysel, post-Heysel ban on English clubs in European football, and we were able to get a pick of top English players. But Jude Bellingham would have been coming to Rangers in those days. He wouldn't have gone to Real Madrid. We were becoming the most powerful club in Britain, kind of almost in an 18-month period. It was a different level Rangers were playing at, whereas Clement, Chris Woods was the England goalkeeper. I know we've got Jack Butland has been in goals for England. It was Great Britain's number one at the Olympics in 2012, but Chris Woods was a bona fide, proper, in there for the duration England goalkeeper. And that game we played against Hamilton Accies, before Adrian Sproat scored the only goal of the game, Chris Woods broke the British clean sheet or consecutive minutes unbeaten record for a goalkeeper. I don't know if it's Peter Shilton, who he trained with. He was his understudy at Nottingham Forest when they won one of their European Cups, I think, in 79 and 80. I think he would go into Norwich by the second one, Chris Woods. But I don't know if it was Peter Shilton's record he broke while Shilton was at Forest. Anyway, the whole point is I remember being at that game, and when the game starts, it's at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, kick-off, right at the end of January, and it was a bright day. It was a reasonably bright day. It's light, it's daylight, and we're looking up at the clock, because I'd been at the game where he conceded the goal to Uwe. Was it Uwe Arran of Borussia Mönchengladbach in the UEFA Cup? And Ian Durant scored for us. It was one each on the night. We'll go out and away goals because we drew 0-0 in the Bokelberg sendings off, etc. But that was it. That was November, and didn't concede another goal until this was us in the last fixture of January for Rangers. And he just had to get to a certain amount of minutes, and that took him up to he set the record. It was at 1,169 minutes. But he just had to get to a certain point in that game, say it was past the 35-minute mark, and that meant he'd broken the record. So we're all... Hamilton were doing nothing. Hamilton weren't threatening at all. Neither were we, mind you. So we're watching the scoreboard, and I just remember that Chris Woods just jogging about his box as he always did, keeping himself warmed up, keeping himself limber in case anybody was to happen to attack his goal. We were dominating that game, and then the clock hits the certain minute, and that's it. He's broke the record. The whole place has gone crazy, singing Chris Woods' name and all that. Well, that's brilliant. And then next thing, it's dark, and Adrian Sproat has scored, and we're out the Scottish Cup to Hamilton Accies, and everything's just there. It was just a really crazy. That's how quickly things can change. But what a team we had then. The amount of money we had. It was a team that was upscaling, a whole club that was upscaling. Whereas just now, Clement has got a club that's downsizing. He's lost so many players over the last couple of summers, and this winter, and he's getting in players that are cheaper. He's just having the whole infrastructure of the club is totally changing, and it is a freak result, and it isn't a freak result because the attitude, the kind of unfocused, unurgent, lax attitude that eventually cost us that game against Queen's Park was really evident, glaringly evident against Fraserburgh, especially in the first half. I was raging at half time in the Fraserburgh game. We were winning 1-0 against a part-time team, a Highland League side. And well, just as bad against Queen's Park, but it wasn't bothering me for some reason. I just had a bit more faith in the team, and it did. So it was in the post in that sense. But it's the first time that's his fourth attempt at a domestic cup, Philippe Clement, and he's either won the past 3 times. He's either won the cup or he's lost in the final, and that was losing to a last-minute goal in the Scottish Cup final against Celtic, and then losing on penalties in controversial circumstances in the League Cup final against Celtic. This is the first time he's failed to get to the final of any domestic competition he's managed Rangers in, and that was his 4th domestic cup competition. So basically, it's the first time he's failed to finish first or second in any domestic competition that he's been in charge of Rangers, Clement. And also, it's the first domestic home game we've lost all season, be that at Hampden or Ibrox as our home stadium. It's the first one he's lost, and he's only dropped points in 1 home league game this season, the domestic games. We've lost at home to Dynamo Kiev and Lyon in Europe, but it really is a complete outlier in this season, despite the fact that we're in the middle of a major rebuild. It's still unacceptable. It will always be an unacceptable result. But I think we need to kind of rein in just exactly how, but understand why it's not got the manager the sack. And I think losing to Queen's Park is compensated for, as the CEO was saying, by the ongoing kind of positive freakery of our Europa League campaign. It's almost like a negative, a freakishly bad result. And then you've got winning in Nice and drawing at home with Spurs, even being freakishly good results, going to Olympiacos and getting a draw there when they're a European trophy holder. He clearly didn't get the full impact, the full import of the defeat to Queen's Park, but I think that's partly because he's so focused on the long-term plan. And folk kind of see signs of it working, and they're not looking at where Europa League progress. Folk can't see that the kind of cleared out squad and the poorer replacements is obviously going to take a while to bed in and reach the same kind of level. Look, I've got a crazy theory. I'm full of crazy theories. Again, it's just sheer superstition gone wild, but we didn't. We haven't retained a trophy. We haven't won the same trophy twice since 2012. Everything that happened in 2012. So, but we seem to be winning all the trophies, every trophy we possibly can. It's like we need to win everything once. My crazy theory about when we got to Manchester in 2008, because in 2007 I was at the UEFA Cup final at Hampden, and that meant I'd been to all 3 of the European finals, and I'd been to the Winners' Cup final in '99, the Champions League final in 2002, and that was me. 2007, I'd done all 3 European finals. Bang, following season, Rangers. Finally, that European final I'd been craving for 36 years. We were in it. I was there. It was like I'd done a week, and I don't know if Rangers are doing a version of that we need to win everything, because, well, the first season back we won the 3rd division trophy. I know that's an embarrassment for Rangers, but we won the 3rd division trophy in our first season after 2012. Second season we won what was in the League One trophy. The next season we didn't win the Championship trophy, and neither did we win the Petrofac Cup, the Challenge Cup. But it's quite funny that we only won we only won the Petrofac Cup once in all our times, and it was a disgrace. We lost the final, we lost the semi-final, we lost a penalty shootout to Queen of the South at Ibrox as well, but we did eventually win it at Hampden, and that was the season we won the Championship. So we won all 4 of the lower league trophies once each, and then we got into the Scottish Cup final at the end of that season. There's no time for that yet. Now, of course, we win the league title in 21. Scottish Cup the following season, we lost the UEFA Cup final, or the Europa League final. We couldn't win that. didn't retain the league, but we won the Scottish Cup for the first time since 2012 the following season. Haven't won the league for the first time since 2012 the previous season. Next season, we get into the Champions League for the first time since 2012. Not a trophy, but, didn't feel like it, but an achievement. And then, following season, we win the League Cup. 2023, 2024, we win the League Cup for the first time since 2012. We've not won any of these trophies twice. Won nothing twice. And then we didn't win the Europa League in 2022, because that was obviously we're destined to win the Scottish Cup that season. We're not going to win anything domestically this season. Still in the Europa League. Maybe this is the season we actually win the Europa League. And that then lets us qualify directly for the Champions League next season. So we win that, obviously, the way things are going. We don't win anything domestically, but who cares? And the season after we win the Champions League, right, we don't win anything domestically, but we can win the Super Cup. Now, I know the Super Cup's just a ceremonial, it's a kind of charity shield type thing, but it's got a bit of prestige about it. That'll keep us ticking over. And it will mean that we're going to be in the kind of cycle for the Club World Championship, the new format, the Club World Championship. If you've won your federation's biggest trophy in a kind of 4-year period, you'll be in the next Club World Championship. So we could probably, the next Club World Champion, we'll win that. Whenever, if they're having it biannually, quadrannually, whatever, we'll win that, and we'll just basically win the lot. We'll have won every single trophy once that's available to us, and once we've won that, that'll be it. We can start so that's going to be what? That's going to be this is 25, Champions League 26, Super Cup 27. Say, what is this? This is it's a 25, so 20. So that gives us a few years to win the Club World Championship. 2030, I think 2030. That's us. We win the league again, and maybe win a double, and then maybe win the treble the following season. It's going to be 2030, 2031. Like what I said, I've already talked so much crap. Is there anything of any actual interest that I've got to say to you? I took a few notes because things are just piling up. And Europe, talking of Europe, on Friday we're going to know who we will get in the last 16 of the Europa League. It's going to be Fenerbahce or Anderlecht. They're playing each other. Fenerbahce 3-0 up from the first leg. Jose Mourinho seems to have a kind of a shoe-in to be in that draw, or is this the time he loses? He's so good with the European finals, but sometimes you just think it's a shoe-in. That's the very time that these guys lose. Maybe Anderlecht will end up doing them in penalties or something, a spectacular comeback. But I expect it to be Fenerbahce. They're going to be as kind of star-studded as Galatasaray were when we put them out in the COVID season. We put them out of the Europa League, the qualifiers, or the playoff round. But I just can't see us getting past Fenerbahce if we were to get them. Or it's going to be Bodo Glimt or 2-1 to 20 in the Netherlands in Enschede. Last week in the first leg, they go up to the North Pole, basically, the Arctic Circle, to play Bodo Glimt to the return this week. They beat Jose's Roma 6-1. They beat them 6-1 up there, Bodo Glimt. In the Conference League, that would be the same season we got to the final of because Roma then stuffed them. That was the group stage, and then Roma stuffed them in the quarterfinals to put them out, and Roma, of course, went on to win the first ever Conference League under Jose Mourinho. But it's going to be Bodo Glimt 20, Anderlecht or Fenerbahce, but we'll find out who it is on Friday. Reaching to the 2022 final and the 2008 final, it might increase our expectations kind of unrealistically. It makes us think, this is just, if we don't get to the final, it's a bit of a failure now. No, this is a beyond successful achievement already, just to be in the last eight. My feelings about what it would mean for us to win the Europa League, and about the mindset of some of our fans and observers, they're totally separate. What it would mean to me and what it actually takes to win the Europa League, I think our chances are pretty slim. I think putting all the focus on the Europa League actually makes it less likely that we're going to win it. I think there is something to the criticism that this Rangers team only do well. We've only done well for a few years when the pressure's not on us. So the fact that there's no pressure on us domestically now because we're out of everything, I think there's a chance that we'll feel the pressure for once in Europe, and whoever we play is going to put us out in the last 16. But it's nice to know we can now appreciate Europe again. I think there was somebody having a go during the week saying we were Espanyol or Everton, we're the new Espanyol to Celtic's Barcelona or to Celtic's Liverpool. And I don't know why they don't just finish that off, the E's there, Espanyol, Everton, just make it East Stirlingshire to Celtic's Falkirk. We're talking about the poorer team, the miles behind the big power in a particular conurbation. But of course, it's every season in Spain. Every season in Spain, Espanyol finishing second in La Liga again, second in La Liga again, but second in the Copa del Rey. They're runners up in the Copa del Rey again to Real Madrid, Barcelona, whoever. And Everton, oh God, Everton or Man City. Everton or Man City. That's 4 seasons to trot. It's either going to be Everton or Man City who win this English Premier League. Oh God, it's Man City again. Just the same as it is in Scotland, but Rangers being second all the time, second in most things. So it's us finished second in everything consecutively. The last three, the Scottish Cup this season has just given us a wee bit of a break. But it's I think. Maybe Everton are like us because they play in a blue Archibald Leitch stadium for now. With Archibald Leitch stands in it, and they've won the Cup Winners' Cup once, same as ourselves. And Espanyol have lost 2 UEFA Cup finals, so that's UEFA Cup is the Europa League. So we've also played in the Hampden final. We've played in quite a few Hampden finals, Espanyol, but I think we've played in more European finals than Espanyol and Everton combined, and neither of them have ever played in the Champions League group stages, and we've played in it 11 times, which is I think it's more seasons than Espanyol have collectively been in Europe. So no, it's just kind of Celtic wind-up stuff, and I think we need to start appreciating what our club has done in Europe, not bite with this kind of stuff like I am doing right now. But the Champions League has compounded, has augmented the power divide in a lot of countries, but it's actually the big nations, the nations that we would usually have said are far more competitive domestically than the Scottish backwater, where it's become more pronounced than it's ever been in Scotland. Bayern Munich was at 12 times or something. Bayern won the Bundesliga on the trot, and the Bundesliga was like the English Premier League, like Ligue 1, like Serie A. One of those leagues that you just thought would never be retained anywhere near the 9 in a row that the Rangers and Celtic were able to rack up, having a kind of historical head-to-head, just for fun, really, a distraction to ourselves. But that's what's happened, and I think that these clubs, Juventus were always backed by Fiat, and Juve did a 9 in a row, 10 in a row, or something of Serie A, which was totally unprecedented. They had Fiat as well as all the Champions League money. They're getting to a later stage in the Champions League, these clubs. Juventus being in the final in 2015 and 2017, 2003, all that kind of stuff. They'll get much more money than Celtic are ever going to get out of the Champions League at this moment in history, anyway. Manchester City, 4 in a row. I mean, you did Huddersfield, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man U all winning the English title 3 in a row, but nobody had ever done it 4 in a row. And it's this new modern age, the Champions League money, augmented with money from the UAE, PSG dominating in France, with money from Qatar, etc. But it's even they're starting to kind of, I don't know, not tonight anyway. PSG utterly destroying Brest, but it's generally speaking these kind of monopolies. Bayer Leverkusen stopping Bayern last season are coming to a bit of an end, but it's the bigger leagues that are actually afflicting us. Rangers aren't that far behind Celtic. It's not going to take a lot. It will take a lot, on the field, etc. A lot of dedication to catch up with Celtic, but they're not as far ahead of us as we particularly think. And I think you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful when you, excuse me, show that kind of. There's a lot of people who have been so-called Rangers fans and Rangers observers, etc., basically lobbying against the supporting of their own club. We need to cut off their money, don't buy stuff at the shop, don't renew your season ticket, I'm not going back, etc. And it's like, you've got to be careful. Folk don't just tell you, well, don't come back, you're no wanted. You can't just show up when things are good. You've got a chance here, and things really, compared to how they've been like in the 80s, for example, they're not that bad. They're actually not that bad. It's not good, but people declaring their lifelong loyalty, wearing it like a badge when we're in the 4th tier, it seems a bit stupid to then be, but I can't take the fact that we're finishing second in the top tier. I'm going to walk away here, the very thing we said we weren't going to do. Hearts are more like Everton, really. No, just in the fact that they get rid of an Archibald Leach stand as well. There's not many left. It's us in Portsmouth, I think, Fratton Park. Archibald Leach was involved at Dens. I don't think he did the main stand. Dundee might move at Dens as well. Fulham, Craven Cottage, Archibald Leach. Anyway, if it's up to me, the next big investor at Ibrox, rather than giving us a kind of star-studded team for a season or two, he should rebuild the three newest sides of Ibrox, obviously keeping the main stand, which is listed anyway. Give us a 72,000 capacity stadium. It must be 72,000, just almost like let us learn how to fish rather than just giving us a fish for a season or two. Let us learn how to fish. Let us learn how to just even make the entrance prices a bit cheaper, just so we get the place full with a massive crowd. Loyalty is its own reward, as far as I'm concerned. You shouldn't always need it to be reward. It's not a transactional relationship you've got with your football club. I remember Brian, a guy called, I can't remember his second name. I was at school, secondary school in the early to mid-80s, and I was going to see Rangers home and away every week. There would be paper round to have the money to go and see Rangers home and away every week. And Brian was one of these boys who, from North Ayrshire, was supporting, I can't remember if it was Dundee United or Aberdeen. I don't know if it was Dundee United or Aberdeen, but the main thing was he was slagging Rangers. He was a funny guy. He was actually quite a funny fella. He wasn't a fighter and like that, so you weren't going to get any kind of kudos by hitting him. It just proved that he'd got to you, and he did. Because Rangers were awful, and boys would be asking me. He sat behind me at maths, and he was right up the back. We were right up the back, but so I'd be discussing it with other boys, the football, because I'd been to Pittodrie or Tannadice, whatever we'd been playing that weekend, and he would just be slagging Rangers rotten for being crap, and that was fair enough. I mean, in North Ayrshire, you're a bit of a traitor, supporting Rangers and Celtic. Never mind, you should be supporting Kilmarnock or Ayr United. So to be supporting Aberdeen or Dundee, they weren't going to the games. They weren't actually at Pittodrie or Tannadice ever. It was just a TV thing, or just kids. And it was like these were the successful teams. You couldn't support somebody who was crap, and that's fine. But I remember being, I think it was 87. I think it was just after we won the league. Maybe 89 or something. We'd just get back to the top under Souness, etc. Souness was still manager, and I'm walking along Edmiston Drive. I'm sure it was the beginning of a season because it was sunny, and there he was, wearing a Rangers scarf. I don't know if it's his dad or whatever, just getting ready to go into it. And I'm like, you fucking, what I mean? Oh, we're winning now, and you've just decided. It's just that thing of, I never really went to see Aberdeen or Dundee United, and my uncle was always a Rangers supporter. Really, I felt like I was always a Rangers supporter. So it's because they're winning. You don't want to be that. You need to be there when times are hard, or else. Doesn't count. This idea that you make a fool of yourself by following a losing Rangers team. You make a fool of yourself by following a winning Rangers team. Socially, that ship has sailed. Given so much of your time, effort, and public emoting to 11 guys you'll generally never meet kicking a ball, but it's a daft thing anyway, generally speaking. So don't, just you're in that world. You go to play by that world's rules, and you cannot be. I know that's how it happens. I know folk walk away from their team when their team's not playing well, but it's a bloody disgrace. And for me, I say loyalty is its own reward, and we're not actually having to put up with that much just now. We're getting plenty of compensation for the bad stuff. The result against Queen's Park was absolutely horrific. Hopefully, we'll get another fantastic European result to ameliorate, to play off against it. But until then, folks, I am going to avoid any previewing of the St Mirren game. I'll do a very, very quick preview of the St Mirren game on Friday, and I'll be on Jersey night and Friday night anyway, so I'll probably just be repeating myself if I say too much, and I've said far too much already. That's an hour and a half. An hour and 23 minutes. It's a micro manifestation midweek pod, and thank you very much for joining me, and very good luck to Patrick Stewart with his attempts to get Rangers in a kind of patient long-term vibe, as opposed to just sack that bastard because it's not working properly. Aye, folks, that's enough for me. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.